Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should first offer respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayana Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Shrimvatam Swakata Krishna, Punya Shravana Kirtanaha, Hridiyantastoya
Tatastho Bhadrani
Viduroti Suritsatam.
Vidurati Suritsatam.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma Supersoul in everyone's heart and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. Nashtapraishu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as the irrevocable fact. We should put the next one in. Then we be saying 4 verses every time. It is too much.
No, it's not.
No, it's not. You got it handy? I'll just read the English. As soon as irrevocable loving service is established in the heart, the effects of nature's modes of passion and ignorance, such as lust, desire, and hankering, disappear from the heart. Then the devotee is established in goodness and becomes completely happy. Then you get one from there too. All these are in the second chapter of the first canto. All these cool verses that we are so used to that we are reciting all the time for the Bhagavatam is there. That's what they are. So now we have a reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, and we are on, is it 15?
Yeah.
Yes, good. This one is
15.
I want to make sure it's mixed up. Yo, Bhishma, Karna, Guru, Shalya, Chamushu, Adabra, Yo Bhishma, Karna, Guru, Shalya, Chamushva, Bhadra,
Yo Bhishma Karna Guru Saya Chamushra Dabra
Rajanya,
Varya
Ratha,
Mandala
Manditasu, Rajanya, Varya, Ratha, Manditasu,
Rajanya Varya Ratamandala Manditasu,
Agrecharo, Mama,
Vibho, Utapanam,
Agrecharo, Mama, Vibho, Rata, Utapanam, Ayur, Manamsi, Cha, Disha, Saha, Oja, Archat, Ayur, Manamsi, Chadrisha, Saha, Oja, Archat.
Ayur Manam Sichadrisha Saha Oja Archat.
Yo Bhishma Karna Guru Shalya Chamushva Bhadra,
Yo Bhishma Karna Guru Salya Chamushva Kadabra,
Rajanya Varya Ratamandala Manditasu,
Rajanya Varya Ratamandala Manditasu,
Agrecharo Mama Vibho Rata Yutapanam,
Agrecharo Mama Vibho Rata Yutapanam,
Ayur Mamamsi Chadrisha Saha Oja Archat,
Ayur Manam Sichadrisha Saha Oja Archat.
Yo Bhishma Karna Guru Shalya Chamushva Bhadra,
Yo Bhishma Karna Guru Salya Chamushva Kadabra,
Rajanya Varya Ratamandala Manditasu,
Rajanya Varya Ratamandala Manditasu,
Agrecharo Mama Vibho Rata Yutapanam,
Agrecharo Mama Vibho Rata Yutapanam,
Ayur Mamamsi Chadrisha Saha Oja Archat,
Ayur Mamansi Chadrisha Saha Oja Archat,
Yo Bhishma Karna Guru Shalya Chamushva Bhadra,
Yo Bhishma Karna Gurusaya Chamusa Adavra
Rajanya Varya Ratamandala Manditasu
Rajanya Varya Ratamandala Manditasu
Agre Charoma Mavigo Ratayutapana
Hare Choma Gora Yutapanam
Ayur Mamamsi Chadrisha Saharoja Arshat
Ayur Manam Sikshadisha Saharoja
Yo Bhishma Karna Gurusalya Chamushu Adabra
Yo Bhishma Karna Gurusaya Chamusha Adavra
Rajanya Varya Ratamandala Manti Titeshu
Rajanya Varya Ratamandala Manditasu
Agre Charo Mama Vigurata Yutapanam
Agre Charo Mama Vigorata Yutapanam
Ayur Manamsi Chatrishta Saha Ojo Archat
Ayur Manam Sikshadisha Sahoja Richat
Yo Bhishma Karna Gurusaya Chamushpadabra
Yo Bhishma Karna Gurusaya Chamusha Adavra
Rajanya Varya Ratamandala Manditasu
Rajanya Varya Ratamandala Manditasu
Agre Charo Mama Vivo Rata Yutapana
Agre Charo Mama Vibhorata Yutapanam
Ayur Manam Sichodrisha Saha Ojaricha
Ayur Manamsi Chatrishta Saha Oja Archat
Yo Bhishma Karna Gurusaya Chamushpadabra
Yo Bhishma Karna Gurusaya Chamusha Adavra
Rajanya Varya Ratamandala Manditasu
Rajanya Varya Ratamandala Manditasu
Agre Charoma Madhurata Yuthapanam
Agre Charo Mama Vigorata Yutapanam
Ayur Manamsi Chadrisha Saha Oj Archat
Ayur Manam Sikshadisha
Sahoja
O Bhishma Karna Gurusalya Chamusa Adavra
Yo Bhishma Karna Gurusaya Chamushpadabra
Rajanya Varya Ratamandala Manditasu
Rajanya Varya Ratamandala Manditasu
Agre Charo Mama Vibho Rata Yutapanam
Agre Charo Mama Vivo Rata Yutapana
Ayur Manam Sichadrisha Sahayoja Arche
Ayur Manam Sichadrisha Saha Ojaricha
Names Yaha
Yaha
It is he only
It is he only.
Bhishma
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 Karna
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 Guru
Guru
Dronacharya
Dronacharya
Shalya
Saya
Shalya Chamushu
Chamusu
in the midst of the military phalanx
in the midst of military phalanx.
Abhadra
Talavana
immense
immense.
Rajanya Varya
Rajavarya
great royal princes
Great royal princes.
Ratamandala
Ratamandala
chain of chariots
Chain of chariots
Manditasu
Manikasu
being decorated with
being decorated with
a great charaha
a great chara
going forward
going forward
Mama
Mama
of mine
of mine
Bigho
Vivo
O great king
O great king
Rata Yutapanam
Rata Yutapanam
all of the charioteers
all the charioteers
Ayuhu
Ayur
duration of life or fruitive activities
duration of life or fruitive activities
Manamsi
Manamsi
mental upsurges
Mental upsurges
Cha
Cha
also Drisha
Risha
by glance
by glance
Saha
Saha
power
power
Oja
Oja
strength
Strength.
Archat,
Adichat.
withdrew.
Withdrew.
Translation purport by His Divine Grace is Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Prabhupada.
I'll read the whole thing first. It was He only who withdrew the duration of life from everyone, and who, in the battlefield, withdrew the speculative power and strength of enthusiasm from the great military phalanx. What is it? Is that phalanx? Phalanx. I'll never get that. Phalanx. Made by the Kauravas, headed by Bhishma, Karna, Drona, Shalya, etc. Their arrangement was expert and more than adequate. But He, Lord Shri Krishna, while going forward, did all this. So please repeat. It was He only
It was He only
who withdrew the duration of life
who withdrew the duration of life
from everyone,
From
and who, in the battlefield,
and who in the battlefield
withdrew the speculative power
withdrew the speculative power
and strength of enthusiasm
and strength of enthusiasm
from the great military phalanx
from the great military phalanx
made by the Kauravas,
made by the Kauravas,
headed by Bhishma, Karna, Drona, Shalya,
headed by Bhishma, Karna, Drona, Shalya,
etc.
etc.
Sorry, right place to stop. Their arrangement was expert
Their arrangement was expert
and more than adequate,
and more than adequate.
but He, Lord Shri Krishna,
But He, Lord Shri Krishna,
while going forward,
by going forward,
did all this.
did all this.
Purport. The absolute personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna, expands Himself by His plenary Paramatma portion in everyone's heart. And thus He directs everyone in the matter of recollection, forgetfulness, knowledge, the absence of intelligence, and all psychological activities. Bhagavad Gita 15:15. As the Supreme Lord, He can increase or decrease the duration of life of a living being. Thus the Lord conducted the battle of Kurukshetra according to His own plan. He wanted that battle to establish Yudhishthira as the emperor of this planet. And to facilitate this transcendental business, He killed all who were on the opposite party by His omnipotent will. The other party was equipped with all military strength, supported by big generals like Bhishma, Drona, and Shalya, and it would have been physically impossible for Arjuna to win the battle had the Lord not helped him by every kind of tactic. Such tactics are generally followed by every statesman, even in modern warfare. But they are all done materially by powerful espionages, military tactics, and diplomatic maneuvers. But because Arjuna was the Lord's affectionate devotee, the Lord did all this Himself, without personal anxiety by Arjuna. That is the way of the devotional service to the Lord. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, and the spiritual master opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge, and offer my respectful obeisances even then. So the first thing I'm going to do is just go ahead and read 15:15 in Bhagavad Gita. Savasachaham Hridisani Vishto Matas Mitir Gyanam Apohanam Cha Vedaischa Sarvairam Eva Vedyo Vedanta Vedavachaham. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta, and I am the knower of the Vedas. We talked a long time on just this one. Of course, any verse. The topic here. Yeah.
Real quick, sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to share this real quick. It's phalanx.
Phalanx. Phalanx, not phalanx, phalanx.
Phalanx. Yeah, it can actually be pronounced kind of both ways, but
Oh, okay.
the primary pronunciation is phalanx.
I like the captain who every day looked in his safe as if for some inspirational thing.
Like the fence, chain links.
Chain
Chainlinks.
links. The captain looked in his safe every day, put something locked up in there. It was like some maybe devotional inspiration or something. And when he died, they found in his safe that it said, port left, starboard right. I probably like that rest of my life with phalanx. Is it phalanx?
It's a southern thing.
It's a southern thing?
They always say, southern people, they have this, they talk different, they say they drop a syllable.
Syllable.
I'm
Syllable.
not Southern, I can't use that excuse. So, the only thing I'm barely managing to say you all these days, I've been in the South for a long time. So, I'm very stubborn about picking up accents. So anyways, the topic here is about Krishna. Well, there's an immediate topic that Krishna changed not only the lifespans, but also the minds and hearts of the great military generals, the opposite party, because he withdrew the speculative power and strength of enthusiasm. The arrangement was expert and more than adequate, but Krishna did all this changing. So, and that he makes these arrangements. So this is, on the one hand, this is specifics of the war, that he did this. And on the other hand, he does this all the time for his devotees. Now for non-devotees and those who aren't trying to surrender to him, he lets karma, unfold its own way. But even then, there's some free will. You might go left instead of right, so there could have been some karma lined up for you here, so you go there, and it's arrangement, you get it there. So it's always being done. So anyways, I want to read, how do you find it quicker in the book? It's in chapter 1, when they start blowing their conch shells. I just thought this would be cool to read now. When Duryodhana is telling Dronacharya, as if Dronacharya needed to be told about this, Duryodhana is listing all the great powers that they have. For them, this was all gathered together pretty quick. Maybe Dronacharya didn't know everything either, so Duryodhana was filling them in. People were arriving and arriving, armies were arriving from all sides. But they blew the grandfather Bhishma blew his conch shell, and then after that, the conch shells, drums, bugles, trumpets, and horns were all suddenly sounded. The combined sound was tumultuous. On the other side, both Lord Krishna and Arjuna, stationed on a great chariot drawn by white horses, sounded their transcendental conch shells. Lord Krishna blew his conch shell called Panchajanya, Arjuna blew his, the Devadatta, and Bhima, the voracious eater and performer of Herculean tasks, blew his terrific conch shell called Ponga. And then it says all the different conch shells that were blown. The blowing of these different conch shells became uproarious, vibrating both in the sky and on the earth. It shattered the hearts of the sons of Dhritarashtra. So there's a moment, and I say right there, for a moment, when you can see that Krishna changed hearts. He changed their minds and hearts, and they no longer felt so strong. So they thought just the same, but their hearts were shattered somehow, because these conch shells were transcendental. So Krishna, as it says in this verse, withdrew his speculative power and strength of enthusiasm. So they were affected by that, and Krishna changed it like that. So he also shortened their span of life, and he also made all the arrangements in the war so that Yudhishthira would win. And that so he would reduce the population of Kshatriyas and Asuras and like that. So I just have a question before I go on. The Yadus were Krishna's army, right? And Krishna's army was on Duryodhana's side, and everybody was killed except a handful of men. So then, is there some difference here where there were Yadus left to kill each other? So, does anybody know the answer to this question?
There's two sets of Yadus. You're talking about the Yadus that were taking part in the battle and the Yadus that were...
So all the Yadus didn't go to battle?
No. Now his army is different than the Yadus. The Yadus is like the family and all that.
Oh, okay.
The Yadus are a whole clan, and
Yeah.
Krishna had a particular phalanx of, what do you say?
Phalanx.
Of men, warriors that Duryodhana got because he got to choose, that whole pastime. But there were still the Yadus and the Andikas and the Vojas, and it's a whole clan, but within that clan there was different groups.
Okay. So anyways, the idea here is how Krishna makes arrangements. And so I was trying to think of more time, because he does it so much. And then I was saying, well, how are you going to think of specific examples? It's just always. But of course there are specific examples. One of them is the example of how Krishna arranged for this war to happen. So he arranged, but he does not arrange against free will. So it has to be that Duryodhana really was envious, he really wanted to fight and everything, but it was arranged so that then he would do it Krishna's way and get himself killed. And so on. So all these arrangements are made, but not against free will. And even there's free will in choosing, sometimes make a little different choice. Well, Krishna arranges so it still works out his way. He makes maybe a different arrangement. So Krishna's always arranging. In the battlefield, he did advise Arjuna in specific ways, and he did openly advise things like espionage, military. Did he advise espionage? Must have been there. Military tactics and diplomatic maneuvers. Yes, he openly did those in a human way, but invisible to everybody. He was arranging much, much more so that everything would happen his way. And not only the happening of the Battle of Kurukshetra, but the happening of the speaking of Srimad Bhagavatam. We'll go back a little, the happening of the speaking of Bhagavad Gita. Why did Arjuna all of a sudden lose his courage? Why did he all of a sudden have doubts? Just the right kind of doubts so that Bhagavad Gita could be spoken to all of us. So this was, Arjuna wasn't really forced on him, he was a good-hearted person, so he was willing, but somehow Krishna arranged that he would be in this Maya so that he would have these doubts and ask these questions. And so also in the speaking of the Srimad Bhagavatam, so many events had to come to place together so that the Bhagavatam would be spoken by Shukadeva Goswami to Parikshit Maharaj. And there had to be a king out hunting and getting tired and thirsty. And he had to pass by the sage's cottage. The sage had to be deep in meditation, there had to be a dead snake nearby. And a little boy had to have a certain mentality, that wasn't forced on him because he was actually first of the Brahmanas who were going to kind of go bad. But so it wasn't forced on him against his free will, but the immediate decision and stuff was certainly arranged by Krishna. And so therefore the king got mad. I don't know why. Because he was tired and thirsty, and so he got a little huffy, and he put the dead snake on the sage's shoulder, on the sage's neck, was meditating and not in this world exactly. So all these things were arranged, and then the little boy curses him and calls for the snake bird in 7 days. All this is arranged so that the Bhagavatam could be spoken. So many arrangements like this. And each of us has a story, how we came to Krishna consciousness, for example. Not to mention daily events that happen in the moving forward of the movement, but how we came. And so myself, I usually don't, in sessions where people talk about how I came to Krishna consciousness, I don't usually talk about mine, because it's very complicated and I don't feel good talking about it, but I had a mentally ill boyfriend, I'm just saying now. I had a mentally ill boyfriend who was probably the only person in Grand Rapids who had a case of books to distribute, but he was too reclusive, he wasn't distributing it. He had some paperback Bhagavad Gitas and he had some Science of Self-Realization, but he wasn't doing anything with them. And he's possibly the only one in Grand Rapids who had it. And so I was job hunting. I applied at a place where he was working, and that's how we met. And then I thought, no, okay, I don't want to work there. So, okay, another arrangement. We met in a laundromat. I know you from somewhere. Oh, yeah, okay. Conversation. And then I had a book and had a boyfriend. He was mentally ill, but he managed to take me to visit the devotees before he went too bad. And I had to break up with him. And so, by that time I had met the devotees. So just imagine how many things had to work together, and not all of it apparently very auspicious. But still, here I am.
And who is crazy?
Huh?
And who is crazy?
Who's crazy?
Yeah, was your boyfriend actually crazy, or was...
He was mentally ill. Yeah. Actually, when he took me to see the devotees, I looked at the devotees, I saw their bright faces, and I saw his face wasn't bright because he was so mental, So, and actually, I might as well tell. I know y'all pretty well, so he actually joined after I joined. I broke up with him and I joined the movement. then he decided he was only an HG movement. We ended up getting married, and actually it was horrible. Actually, it was horrible. He was really ill. And so anyway, all that happened. But so a lot of that wasn't really very auspicious, yet here I am. So I could have taken a different route. I was a serious artist, and I wanted to, major in art. And I really should have gone from West Michigan. I should have gone to college in Chicago or Detroit, where there were art institutes. No, I followed the boyfriend I had at that time and went to Western Michigan. So it was married him. It was a long time before I could meet the devotees. So I could have, if I had gone to Chicago or Detroit, I would have certainly run into the devotees in those years. I would have certainly met Prabhupada. I would certainly be initiated by Prabhupada. Didn't happen that way. Different route. Krishna made all the arrangements anyway, some of them not very auspicious, but I got from there to here. So anyway, that's an example of how Krishna makes arrangements. I might not be able to talk very long about this because how many arrangements can you think of? They're going on all the time, but
That's Rup Maharaj just gives in the Leela Amrita a very nice example of how when Srila Prabhupada came to the West, how the hippie revolution was in full bloom.
right.
He spoke about that subject
Exactly.
he's speaking about.
Another really big example. Prabhupada couldn't get to the West and couldn't get to the West and couldn't. He had the order for years before he managed to do it. And what's her name? Srimati Maharaji was preventing him until finally she gave in and he arrived at the right moment. And he almost thought about going back because at first nothing was happening enough. And he almost had to go back because he had to keep prolonging his visa, right? And so somehow it all worked out, and here it all is. And so Krishna makes all these arrangements. If Prabhupada had come, say, in the 50s, forget it. If he had come in now, people had tightened up again. So he came at just the right time, for when everything was really loosened up and he could just move in. Now people are like nervous, the economy is so bad, and everybody's so aware of how bad things are, they're kind of tightened up. So it's much harder. So, anyways, maybe I'll open it up. Any discussions of Krishna's arrangement? Maybe I'll think of some more too.
I think one question just kept coming to me when you were speaking was about free will versus, how far is our free will? Do we even really have what they call free will? The debate is there in even in sagacious circles about how much free will we actually have. And to a certain degree, Krishna choreographs everything that happens to us. Everything is already kind of like destiny, karmic, whatever. It gets very complicated. So ultimately, Krishna seems, in my humble opinion, to be doing everything, and we just have this little desire to serve Krishna or serve Maya, basically. That was the question that kept coming to me. Where does free will? Where does it come in at?
Just like you just said it, that free will to whether to serve Krishna or Maya.
Yeah.
And I think that we can't be made to go against that kind of desire. We can't, if we really, suppose we could expedite something if we rob a bank or kill somebody or something, we could expedite the movement forward just by taking that shortcut. If somebody isn't willing to do that, it ain't going to happen. So, just off the top of my head, that example. But if something is really against our heart, then Krishna won't force that. But if we have some inclination around it, he may say, okay, you said inclination over here. So that's what I was thinking as I was hearing this.
And how much does desire depend upon impetus coming? We get a desire, but where does that desire come from? That attraction, that mental, awareness of something that we desire. All that's created by Krishna. Everything's created by Krishna. So, Krishna is like the puppet in a way, the modes of material nature doing the thing, but ultimately behind all of that, there's the supreme personality of Godhead who is, everything is moving by His will.
And mostly like karmi's non-devotees, that karma takes care of it. And even then, you can say no to karma in one situation, you can get it in another situation. But it's the same karma, and it's in your heart the same way. But once you're a devotee, Krishna gets more personally involved. We can make decisions like, for some reason, back in my going to college, choosing my college, I wanted to go where my boyfriend went. And instead of going to where there was an art institute, I didn't make that choice. Conditioning, getting some comfort and social security, not social security, sounds like the government's program. I mean, feeling secure socially, having a boyfriend, that was familiar to me. So I went there. I wanted to stick with that kind of security. And I could have gone to, I could have gone with the other conditioning and said, well, I'm supposed to be a big artist, and so I should go to where there's a big art institute. So, according to my little balance of conditioning and attractions and everything, I went the other way. And but my real desire, I wanted to find God. I wanted to somehow serve God, and I didn't know how to do that. But that was there, and God in the heart knew. And so it took a long time, but he made the arrangements that I would get there. And meanwhile, I became a Catholic, so partway I could do it. But I wasn't satisfied because something in me knew there was more. And so eventually, after getting frustrated because of bad turns in the Catholic Church in my particular experience, then I came here. But the basic desire, well, okay, you're asking, yeah, we create desire. We have created desires by association with modes of material nature. And we're all here, we all have that, even as devotees. We associate here or there. We get different tastes and wishes and so on. And that also we can make some little choices about that. But our basic interior choice, do we want to serve God or not, like you said, and somehow that choice is going to be carried through it. If we don't want to serve God, it's real easy. So just karma takes over, and material nature, modes of nature, attraction, that takes over. But you can't be made to do something against your will. Oh, in hypnotism, I was trying to think what it was. In hypnotism, people are sometimes afraid of being hypnotized because they might do something they don't believe in or don't want to do. And but the idea is, am I correct, that in hypnotism you can't be made to do something that's really against your will. So you could be made in hypnotism like a strip in front of everybody just because you're hypnotized. You wouldn't do what you wouldn't do, right? Do you understand, right? So, and maybe there's this conspiracy theory that the government has certain individuals that they hypnotize them so much that they'll be willing to do anything, assassinate somebody. Then that takes a whole lot of conditioning, for one thing. And I guess they're really conditioned by that conditioning, modes of nature, they get their own, or somehow. Or maybe they have something in them that if this is true that they do this, the government has identified this person would be willing to do that. So it's still that free will of what the desires are, the desires and aversions. That free will is there, and that certain moral sense is there if you want it. So if you want it, it won't be overridden.
It's also explained that Krishna, Prabhupada gave an analogy I read just recently where how when someone comes to Krishna consciousness, they may have a material desire. But Krishna will fulfill that desire in a certain way, but eventually lead him to the point to where he doesn't have the desire, but he only wants to be a pure devotee. And Prabhupada pointed out that it's like the man who sees a child wanting to eat dirt. He doesn't stop him from eating, but instead the father gives the child, some nice sweet to eat. So in a sense, Krishna consciousness is that palatable fulfillment of our material desires, but it's transformed to spiritual because that's the expertise of the Lord and the pure devotee. We still have the same desires, but they are transformed to spiritual by the expertise of the pure devotee in Krishna.
But don't you think that in the heart of that person who's all materialistic and has material desires, but is willing to accept what the devotee gives, don't you think there must be something in the heart that says, yes, I want this thing that feels like God. rather than no, I don't. Because there are some people you give the same mercy to. If you're a preacher, a asylum distributor, a book distributor, or trying to get somebody to chant. Some people who refuse, and some people who will do it.
It's a deep subject. I know that when the devotees told Prabhupada, they said, Prabhupada, we are so fortunate. And Prabhupada said, I have created torture.
Yeah.
So, when is it the merciful manifestation of the Lord's pure devotee on us, against our will in a sense? Because our will may be so polluted that we're insane, we're more or less crazy. And so then the pure devotee understanding, so he gives us prasada. We think, this tastes so great, this is wonderful, I love this. We don't know that we're eating it, and as we eat it, we're becoming pure devotee by just simply eating. And then we're singing, so many musicians came to the Hare Krishna movement by the music. They like to sing, and it was a singing religion. So then they sing about Krishna, they become, pure artists. You came, you were painting, you like to paint anyway, and then there was some perfect dovetailing of your propensity. There is a point, I guess, where you could say that you have to have some willingness to go along with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
on the other hand, but there's a lot of propaganda coming from Krishna and the pure devotees. Sort of like, what do they do when propaganda, like when they have a whole plan to control people, they go through and they put propaganda, subtle, have subliminal messages, all that. Well, the Lord has also got that in His arsenal to give us. Face it, most of us would have never said, "I'm going to go to India and join a Hare Krishna movement." Right?
Right. Yeah.
How many of us would have actually gone and became Hare Krishnas?
I wouldn't even have read those books except my boyfriend had these reclusive moments where he shut me out. And I felt so lonely that I would read these strange books that he gave me, so I didn't feel so lonely.
So the point being is that because Krishna came and created this Hare Krishna movement, Lord Chaitanya came and created it, then our will changed, our desire changed. It's propaganda. It's definitely like this one devotee, Vivaswami, compared it to panning for gold. You go down to the river and you just the nuggets, you shake it and every now and then a gold nugget appears. That's all.
But still, how rare is it that somebody really takes
right.
and so many people have been given and so few take.
Right.
So there's still something inside that says, yes, just a second.
Exactly.
And there are also people who feel tricked into Krishna consciousness. They turn inimical, and so there's those kind too. Yes.
I think it's I actually heard this discussion of some devotees in Chopat and they were talking about Kura. So the basic premise was that this is spirituality is progressive. So maybe in this lifetime you just go, Hare Krishna, but then that's the beginning.
It's true.
And it's a progressive process.
Mm-hmm.
So there isn't one size fits all. But because you had it this way, then that's the route that everyone is taking. We're all taking it. We're coming at it from different points in our evolution of spiritual life. So it's a progressive process.
Yes, thank you. Possibly those of us who took to it were the ones who ate prasad before or heard a Harinam or something in India or something.
Sometimes Prabhupada would say things like, my spiritual master sent you, or one time he said, a voice from the room, he said, we were all together, and now we're back together again. Yeah, so that in England, to some of the devotees there.
Context meaning all together in previous life.
The way the devotee he said it almost sounded like they were possibly, disciples of Bhakti Siddhanta, and now they're back. As Prabhupada said, we were together, and now we're back together again. Something to that effect.
Well, certainly Bhakti Siddhanta had disciples of all ages, and certainly some died in Prabhupada.
Then he said about Jayapataka Maharaj, he said that he was from Chaitanya Devi. Something that, I don't remember the exact word.
I heard that too.
So I think it's just a question of stage. It's just like giant Vijay's fall down is not the same as, because that's obviously a kind of an orchestrated, unless they also are progressively evolving while in the spiritual world. They're doorkeepers in Vaikuntha, and now they're evolving to another level by having this apparent offense they commit to the Kumaras, and then they first. So, I mean, this, or we can go on, giving various speculations on it, but ultimately I think it's a progressive process.
It reminds me, that idea reminds me of the Bhagavatam where this Gopal Kumara devotee, he actually does go get to Vaikuntha. He's in Vaikuntha, but he's not satisfied because his mantra and his heart is for Krishna the cowherd boy. And so, just before, and then he goes to Ayodhya, then Dwarka, and then just before he would go to Vrindavan, Narada Muni says, go back to the material world where Vrindavan pastimes are going on, and get more purified and get prepared for this. So, you were thinking of that too?
Yeah, I was thinking of that, yeah.
Interesting. Yes.
Well, I was just looking at the significance of Bhagavad Gita 15:15, where Krishna says, I'm seated in everyone's heart, and from me comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. And it says, in the next sentence, it says, by all the Vedas, I am to be known. And we can check things out. If someone says, I think in the past life we were together, we were married, and we should get married again. I've heard of devotees, doing a psych-op on someone. He said, you better consult Guru, Sadhu, and Shastras on that. But Shastras,
maybe they really believe it.
if they might believe it, they might have had a dream. But this is what happened in the battle. Arjuna would have never won this battle, just force against force. But Krishna did a psychops on the other side, starting off with the conch shells. It brought terror to their hearts from the transcendental sound.
What is that word?
It's a military term where you do propaganda, I guess.
You did it
psychological operation.
It was a psychological operation. And it says in the verse you read today, it talks about, Prabhupada says, these tactics. It says, Bhishma, these great generals like Bhishma, Drona, and Salva, it was physically impossible for Arjuna to win the battle had the Lord not helped him by every kind of tactic. It says such tactics, it was on a spiritual plane, but also some physical stuff. It says by such tactics are generally followed by every statesman, the political thing. Even in modern warfare, they do it in warfare too. They use sound on the battlefield now. They drive the enemy crazy by playing rock and roll. Over in Afghanistan and Iraq, different sound, and are all done materially by powerful espionages, military tactics, and diplomatic maneuvers. So on the physical plane, they're trying to do this kind of stuff too. In politics and warfare, even people kind of play each other.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they're saying that the Russians have been doing now in our elections. That's what the Russians are very expertly carrying us apart.
And they actually do it by because of what do they call it on the computer? The programs on computer or algorithms.
Yeah.
They can actually send a message to people living in the south of America who have certain concerns versus somebody who lives out on the West Coast. They get a different message to sort of play what they're concerned about, And so they can actually pinpoint the household by what you've been searching online. They can sort of get in your head. But this is on a spiritual plane that Krishna was
Well,
working with
what's
us.
interesting in all this, it's all a matter of spiritual material. It's all a matter of personalities interacting. So we do it, Krishna does it, everybody try to influence persons and in different ways. And it's just that Krishna is by far the expert and in charge, and we try to do it, as he put it here, that the Lord did all this himself without personal anxiety by Arjuna. So when we try to do it, there's all kinds of personal anxiety. I bet you the Cyclops people, that got those diagrams, anxiety all the time, will it work, Mm-hmm. And Krishna does this, I don't know if I should say effortlessly, because Prabhupada said, you give Krishna a problem, he has to decide whether, somebody wants to rob somebody, the robber has some good karma, the other guy has some bad karma or something. Krishna has to decide who wins, and he's in both hearts. And so he has to decide. So maybe, there's some, not effortless, but Krishna goes out of his way and makes some effort for everybody, for all the souls, except to make effort for him is effortless because he's already everywhere, and he's already one, and he's already multiply manifested individually for everybody. So he is by far, anyways, he is beyond our understanding, but he can do all of it without anxiety. He's in control. Yeah.
A good hypnotist in hypnotherapy, they will listen to the client or a person that meets you on the street. A good shyster or flim-flam person will listen to you and pick up on certain things and see where your weaknesses might be, and they can convince you to buy a product, to do a certain thing, to do something you may have not thought you would
They
have
think
done.
they're smarter than they are, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most
They
of
try
them
that stuff,
They try it.
It don't
Yeah.
always work.
No, it doesn't
Yeah.
always.
But still, it's personalities,
convince you.
working on personalities, and it's all up to Krishna, who's a personality. So he doesn't force either. And you can't be forced against your will, your morality, or your basic heart's desire. You can't really go against that. And so Krishna doesn't really make you go against that.
And that's why we need to make sure we don't have any chinks in our armor. Is that the word? A chink?
We don't have chinks. We have tons of chinks we don't know
Well,
about.
you gotta be
I guess
careful.
Krishna could.
You gotta be careful.
He might trick us too. Go against our, but for good.
Oh, for
do
good.
for good. Yeah, we
That's
don't do
fine.
for good.
Yeah.
Or for he could trick a demon, but the demon is foolish enough to walk into the trap too. So he's still working within free will. So, okay, anything else? Okay, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Srimad Bhagavatam. Thank you everybody for participating, helping make this
One
class.
thing I was supposed that we were asking or wondering about how that Arjuna got the gun Diva, and so I looked into it, and it was actually when Agni approached him about draining the Khandava forest, then those were the stipulations. Well, I need weapons in order to accomplish this. And so Agni went into meditation and he called for Varuna, who had been the caretaker of this bow that was created by Brahma originally. And so Varuna gave it to Agni, and Agni presented it to Arjuna along with 2 inexhaustible quivers, a chariot drawn by celestial steeds, and his conch shell also. He mentioned the Devi weapon. So it actually, they all came like from Varuna through Agni, like that. And then when everything was done and the pastimes were over and we're getting to that part, then he threw the Gandiva back into the sea, actually, after they left customs.
These weapons are not like we think of weapons that are just like pieces of wood or metal. So even in Mahabharata, there's a story of the birth of Garuda, and in that Garuda was going to attack the demigods for the nectar of immortality. And the weapons of the demigods could feel it coming. They started to quiver. So, not like we think of as weapons. Pretty interesting. Almost like personalities. Yeah. Would you say personalities?
I said they must have personality.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Jai Vaishnava.